All right, let's go back to this. What is the next step after the residency? I've turned it down. I've turned it down.
Hello?
Hello.
There you go. Okay, we're going to have a little bit of a business meeting, and then we'll get to our program. Jamie, Vice President, you want to give a report?
Yeah. Hey guys, I'm Jamie, the one that the email was addressed to. And so what's going on in the next couple of months? Basically, my vice president position entails arranging for speakers and venues, and we're seeing how this place goes. It's going to be interesting, kind of an experiment. And we have tonight, of course, John speaking about her expedition to Chile, and then next month will be another Don Olson, talking. This time is the great talks about art and astronomy. And so next month we'll be talking about the photographer atoms and some investigations of, I don't know particularly what he's going to be addressing, but usually tackles, old notions, ideas about, what scholarship says about this art piece or that, when it was done, what was going on, any inconsistencies. And he comes in and he uses astronomy and references like where stars were, where shadows were in the pictures, and comes up with some really wonderful discoveries.
Okay.
So that should be really good.
Sign
And
the report to
in this for that, because we usually get a lot of folks. And then the following month in April, during our GA time, will be the Central Texas Star Party. So that's going to be going on for the 3 days. And so that's the Eagle we love. So that's it. Nothing else scheduled beyond that, but it's in the works.
It's being recorded to YouTube.
Also, there's been talk about, I was working on some ideas for
recorded both places.
For AAS. So I brought some sketches. If you guys want to come check them out after the meeting. Just got some ideas in the works. So that is it. Thank you.
Okay, our minutes, we don't have minutes tonight. We're going to stop trying to look at the minutes at the meetings. It's just too difficult. They're on several pages and trying to figure out how to get them on the screen and all that. But the minutes will be in the newsletter, and if you're interested, you can read the minutes, and if you see any corrections you think need to be made, you can let our secretary Jess know, and that's the way we're going to do the minutes from now on. Okay, treasurer, Sean isn't here. Well, I don't think he is on the Zoom call, but the report, the latest treasurer's report was in the newsletter that came out a little while ago, so you can look at that and see that we have money, we're getting in money, we're spending money. Typical. Okay, community.
So I've been working on replacing wild apricot with another system. We've been looking at little green I'm gonna say it wrong.
Right.
Little green light.
Yeah.
My brain wants to go to leaves. I've seen a lot of them this week.
Yeah.
Anyway, we downloaded that a little over a week ago started a free trial. We're a little 30 days and we're not quite halfway into that. I'm not thinking it's suited for us as much as we thought it might be. And I've started looking at some alternatives. There's another class of software out there that's just basically called ASM, is Association Management Software. Little Green Light is mostly nonprofit fundraising software. It's what it specializes at. And it's a little too difficult to manage memberships there, whereas this other class of software is primarily focused on just managing your members. Been looking at the top 10 there, and there's a couple of them that are comparable in price with what we saw with Little Green Light, about $50 a month, which would be about $600 a year. Wild Apricot after this year is going up to $2,500 a year. So both of those would save us quite a bit of money. So I'm going to keep working on Little Green Light, but I think I'm going to talk to an outfit called, let's see if I can remember it. It's something like Build It, but it's basically an organization management package, about $50 a month, and it looks like it's much more in line with what we want to try and do. It lets you do things like committee organizations and tracking. So you can keep track of what your committees are doing, and collaboration on the committees, task management, set up some tasks, things you want to prioritize, and we'll track that for you. So if it integrates well with the website, then I think something like that will probably do better for us. So we did a little bit of cleanup on the website this week, this month. If there's any pages you see there that look a little funny or outdated, drop me a note and I'll see if we can take care of that. Any questions? Okay.
Thank you, Terry. Why don't we take the agenda down so we see people? There's not that much on the agenda. Okay, equipment, Greg.
Okay, so not a whole lot going on at this moment. Brian Lippincott and I finished up the deconstruction of the 12 by 12 building out at Kim Warren's place, and the walls and roof frame members have been moved over to Brian's place for storage temporarily. We also went out to Pedernales, and all the dome pieces, which did not do well in the last wind and rainstorm out there, were pretty badly scattered and full of water, and a couple of them misshapen. We managed to get those basically sorted out, piled up, and what we were able to do was get the two clamshells of the dome put together, and then clamped together. So hopefully that will keep the wind from moving them around in the future. I did talk to Stephen out there. And I don't know if everybody knows this, but there's some personnel changes going on with the park. John Alvis, the park superintendent, is retiring at the end of this month. They're getting an entirely new superintendent. They don't know who yet, but it's not going to be anybody promoted from within the park. So we're going to have to find out who the new boss is and reestablish a relationship with them. Upshot of this is that actually putting together that dome on a building out there, probably a 2-year project at this point. So it's not going to happen anytime soon. Yeah, I know it's not the best news. So that's about where we stand.
But the good news is we're still working on this month getting the storage emptied, and that means getting some, the big telescopes to Pedernales. Well, I don't know about the one that we're
Well-
redoing the mirror on one of them.
Right, yeah, so, yeah, that's the other thing I need to, that was one of the things, of to-do list this week that did not get done. I need to actually get that mirror shipped out to Ostahowski. And then we need to, well, Brian's got COVID right now, so that's a little bit of a delay in game there. But I need to use his trailer to, either his trailer or Terry's trailer to move the 25-inch down to Pedernales. And I think we can make room for the Harlan as well down there. Those are the two big items that are in the Pond Spring storage.
Okay, any questions for Greg?
Any questions?
Okay, Chris, member services. And we have your slide.
Thank you.
Your slide.
Good evening. No one judged me for this picture. You try finding like an actual astronomy picture on the internet, and it's kind of difficult. You might be thinking like, where's the person's gear? Where's all their kit? Where's the boxes? But it was free. So
Well, the other thing is you can't take pictures at night because, you can't use a flash, so.
True. Well, hey, maybe so you can help me. We can take an actual, astronomy picture at the next star party. We are going to be meeting again a week from Friday on February 18th. We'll have a member star party at Bad Wolf Ranch. Saturday, thank you. Saturday, February 18th. And come on out and observe at the dark sky, and it's a lot of fun. How many of you have gotten a comet picture so far? A few of you? Fantastic. Yeah, so I think it's still visible, right? So you can still come out, have a chance to, mine was pretty interesting, but it was something. And maybe someone more experienced will come out as well and take pictures. So we're gonna have a lot of fun. We had about 12, 15 people out last month. So again, we're gonna be meeting every month this year. Well, most of the time we'll be at Bad Wolf, but once a quarter we'll be at Pedernales State Park, which brings us to our Central Texas Star Party, resurrecting this from a few years. So it's a 2-night affair, Pedernales State Park, and we are going to be observing Friday and Saturday night. Saturday will be more of, I guess, more events going on. We'll have a dinner. I think we're working on some ideas for a practical astronomy session. We'll also have our meeting out there as well. So want to encourage you all to come out and visit us. If not for the whole weekend, one night, we'd love to have you. We are going to be sending an email. I'll send out probably at 7 a.m. in the morning. We are going to ask for RSVPs for a couple of reasons. First off, we're going to order dinner, and the society is happy to strongly subsidize that barbecue meal, and I will make sure that we also have vegan, vegetarian, gluten-free other options as well. So just make sure you note that on the RSVP. Also, right now the park is booked for campsites. You can go ahead and get on the wait list. I would say I have probably about a 60-75% chance of getting a spot 2 or 3 weeks before an event when some site opens up. So we did check the group sites reserved. Maybe all the kids will get sick and they'll open up for us. I don't know. There's a lot of Airbnbs in the area, so that's also an option. And then finally, we have permission from Pedernales to have 12 people on the field and camp out. And we have currently 0 RSVPs. So if that's something you're interested in, you want to camp out in the field, yes.
Is that 12 individual people or 12 campsites?
I understand to be 12 people. I will clarify with
Yeah, I
Stephen
think we
though.
need to
I got a really
clarify
big tent 12 people can sleep in.
That's one, yeah.
Sign me up, yeah.
And I know there's at least a few people that have campsites that, set a second tent, second car, but they can fit up to 8 people. So that might be an option as well. So all of that's on the RSVP email. Please fill that out. Only if you're going. If not, you can just ignore it and archive it.
But you should come.
Yeah, you should come. And if you want to come for the day or for the evening, that's okay as well. We'll send directions kind of like how to park. But nice thing Pedernales is it's like 15 minutes away. So, it's not bad to come out for a day. We do it for the public star parties all the time. So again, Friday and Saturday night. Friday night just come set up. We also want to know how many people are coming up. So if we need to be organized about who's where, we'll do that. But we'd love to have a big show and And yeah, any questions? I was thinking, maybe next month, if you've never been to a star party before, we could also, if you get here a little bit early, we could spend a little bit of time talking about just some basics so you don't feel, out of place. Practical astronomy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I want to say, if you've never been before, this is a welcoming group. This is a group that will show you the ropes, won't jump on you too much if you shine a light. Now, if you sweep the field of your cars, I don't know. I can't promise. There'll be some comments on Discord. But come find me. We'll walk you through and make sure you feel right at home. So anyone online or in person, please come hang out with us. But that's all coming up. Yeah.
Do you want to
Yes.
talk about, when did you send the email out?
No, I'm going to send it tomorrow morning. I did not send the survey. It'll be a very simple survey link. It's a Google survey, and let us know if you want to come, like which night, what your housing preferences are, etc. So.
Do you want to talk some about practical astronomy?
Yes, thank you. And we want to get restarted with practical astronomy before our monthly meetings here, our journal meetings, but then also too at our member star parties as well. What I'm looking for are people that have topics that you would feel comfortable speaking about. I know there's a lot of really brilliant people online here in this room, and if you'd be willing to spend half an hour and share with us a love that you have of astronomy or science, please let us know. We're going to build some topics out, hopefully for the rest of 2023, and it can be a range of topics, but we'll put it out there. And again, we would like to restart that before our meeting. So let's plan on practical astronomy next month. We'll do Star Party 101, and then maybe when it comes time to either the CTSP or our May meeting, we can really start leveraging you all and having you share.
I think we're also looking for suggestions of what you would like to have a practical astronomy about. And
Yes.
in the past, we've done things like, I remember we made solar funnels for solar viewing, and we've done things. I'm sorry. Collimation. Yeah. That's the practical part of it. It's not the lectures or the theoretical stuff. It's what really is going to help you as a member astronomer to go to a star party and or do something in your backyard or whatever. So we're looking for both volunteers and topic suggestions.
Can I ask a quick question about that, or should I put it in the chat box?
Collimation. Well, I got a refractor.
Yeah.
Okay, outreach. Ed isn't here, so I will tell you what I know about outreach. Tomorrow night is a star party at Pedernales Falls State Park. It's the first time we've been there since, I guess, December. And the weather looks great. It's going to be cool, but the sky looks like it's going to be really good for tomorrow night. A week from tomorrow night we'll be at Inks Lake State Park. And any of you who have been to Inks and were discouraged by the light situation there, because it's not been good. We're in an area that is surrounded by roads, and we're right near a restroom, which is nice and convenient, but it's lit. And so it can be kind of discouraging to have so much light pollution, but we're going to move to a different location in the park that will be one where we can kind of close off, so there will not be people driving around, and hopefully that's going to be a little bit better for observing, and hopefully that will then also attract a few more people, because we've had a few star parties at Inks where we really didn't have enough scopes, and we think it's because people were discouraged. So we're trying to do what we can to make it a little bit more positive situation. 2 weeks from tomorrow, the 25th, is Girl Day. I wore my shirt from a previous year. It's STEM Girl Day at UT, which is an event for thousands, literally, of mostly girls, but everybody is welcome. There are all sorts of exhibits and lectures and programs that are in the science part of the UT campus, which is basically near Speedway and Dean Keaton. We've been there, I think, either 3 or 4 times before. What we've done in the past is our topic was how a telescope works, and we had some things to show how a telescope works, but also people bring telescopes and look at the sun if it's not cloudy, It is cloudy. The top of the UT Tower is really interesting to look at through a telescope. So that's what we have done. This year, in addition, because we're looking at 2 upcoming eclipses, we're going to have some activities and information about the annular eclipse in October and the total eclipse next year. So we're looking for more volunteers for that. It goes from 11:30 to 4 o'clock. You don't have to be there for the whole time. You get a cool cool t-shirt, like I have several of, and snacks are available for volunteers. And there's some free parking now. My experience has been that it kind of fills up pretty quickly, but it might be possible to get a free parking space. So anybody who's interested, let me know. And it's a fun thing to help these young people learn about astronomy. Any of the members at large who are here? There aren't very many of you. Tony is maybe the only one. You got anything? Okay. Newsletter, Nathan?
I got nothing.
You got no, well.
But I did post a link to the newsletter on the Discord.
Okay.
So,
Yeah,
and
news,
so
I
I'm
got
going to
an
try
email
to,
this afternoon. So
yeah, I've emailed it out, and then I also was going to start posting some stuff in Discord that
Okay.
pertains to the newsletter.
All right, thank you. Jake, our webmaster, is not here, but I will tell you that last month's presentation about how to use Discord is now on YouTube, right, Terry?
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
We pulled that out of the recording of the whole meeting and put it on YouTube. So anybody who's interested in Discord that wants a little bit of a introduction and some helpful hints, go to YouTube. Okay, we do have Ernie. You're Ernie, right? I saw you on Zoom the other night. I just wanted to make sure that I could recognize you in person. Ernie Leaf has agreed to be our International Dark Sky Association liaison. He will just getting started, but he will get information from the IDA and share it with all of us about all sorts of dark sky issues. So welcome.
All right.
Appreciate that. Do you have anything you want to say? You may not have much to say at this point, so. Okay.
That's the report, huh?
Okay, all right, fine. And then Dawn is Alcor. Do you have anything you want to
Yes,
report?
the dates have been set for this year's Astronomy Gumbo, as they're calling it. The Alcon is going to be July 26th to the 29th in New Orleans. The registration is going to be opening in the next month or so. If you're planning on going, I would suggest jumping on that fast, because there's going to be limited spaces for some of the tours, including a tour going to LIGO. So,
Yeah.
yeah, very cool.
Okay, great. Okay, anybody have anything else? I do have one other thing, and that is I'm still looking for some people to serve on the nominating committee to come up with officers for next year. The officer year starts June the 1st, so if anybody's interested in helping on the nominating committee, please let me know. Does anybody else have any business or announcements or anything?
Joyce Shawn joined the meeting.
Okay. Sean, all right. Sean, do you want to say anything? I already said the report's in the newsletter. Anything else?
Oh, nothing for me to add to that. Thank you.
Is he?
Unmute my speaker, probably.
Yeah, hold on.
Sean, could you repeat that?
Yeah. Sorry, nothing for me to add. If the report should speak for itself.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Anything else? All right. Jamie, you want to come up and introduce our speaker?
Oh. Okay, let's see, I can pull it forth for a minute. So, once upon a time,
No, I didn't.
Anyway, our speaker tonight is our very own member, Dawn Davies. And Dawn is like a superwoman who does pretty much everything. She's been on outreach and many other positions, president, yep, in the club for past several years. And she was, I'm not even sure about the application process, but had to apply for this thing that she was part of. Astronomy in Chile, Astronomer in Chile Educator Ambassador Program. I'm like, I'm gonna remember this, but ACEAP. And a lot of folks apply for it, and she actually finally got, she got selected. I say finally, she got selected. They finally had the trip nearly a year after, well, was it a whole, more than a year, wasn't it?
2.5 years.
2.5 years, okay, so she got selected as part of this very small group that was sent down to Chile to visit the observatories down there that we have. Well, she'll tell about all the different telescopes that are different governments around the world are taking part in all of that. But then she got selected to join the small group, and then COVID hit. So finally, they made it. She was supposed to go down in July or something, is that it?
2020.
Yeah, and then they had the big snowstorm, but anyway. So lots of good information, and she's a good friend and a good devoted member of the club, and so I'm very proud to introduce Miss Dawn Davies. With corduroy.
There's a story there. Wait 2 seconds. I'm gonna send it to you right now. Make sure this is it. Just talk amongst yourselves.
Anybody have any comments about coming here to ACC to meet? We had a discussion at the last meeting, and everybody seems to be okay with it.
I don't know if you have the
Parking is
convenient. If you don't,
Parking is better. I'm sorry, what?
It's much better than UT.
Yeah.
Parking,
Parking, yeah.
Parking or?
Yes. Parking is, I won't go there anymore. Here, here.
Yeah, very convenient. I
I'm
like
coming
it.
from Taylor, it's a lot easier to get here than downtown.
Oh,
We are having to pay to use the room, but the feeling last month was, that's okay, it's worth it. So, $65.
Yep.
We all save way more than that on parking.
Yeah. And tickets if you get booted or whatever, because sometimes people have gotten boots put on their car, and that's not cheap.
I got a ticket the first meeting.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't know the parking rules.
Yeah.
And I guess we always have trouble finding a place to go afterwards at UT.
Right.
But, who all were folks here last month?
Mm-hmm.
And you guys went to the Brewtorium?
Yep.
And I'm gonna guess there was a lot of parking.
There was no parking.
There was no parking.
Well,
damn.
It
it was not.
crowded.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
crowded, but there was, I found parking.
We couldn't find.
It was better than on campus.
Okay, so maybe we need to find another.
I can tell you why, because I'm a rock climber, I climbed at the clubs next door.
Yeah.
Fridays is a really bad night. Everybody can do it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I go Sunday nights. 'cause
Well, and of course, we're always looking for suggestions for other places.
Right.
Yeah, there's Black Star Co-op across from airport or in Lamar.
Yeah, right.
The what?
Black Star Co-op. And it's like,
Lamar and airport.
yeah, where it intersects, right? There's a train station or train stop there, and there's a bunch of beer brewing things in the window. So I'm sure they have beer and food.
Cool.
Yeah, there's a parking garage there.
Yeah.
That's open.
There you go.
There's Easy Tiger that's over in the link.
Yeah.
That's also where Vigilante Gastropub is as well.
That's the one I think you were talking about,
Yeah.
that we were trying to figure out
Sounds interesting.
how that might work.
I was just thinking, it was so difficult trying to find a place at UT. We were going to that pizza place, and there was tiny little.
Right, parking was difficult
Yeah,
there.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I just
Well,
assumed.
they did actually have parking in back as well.
Yeah,
it was kind
until,
of difficult to figure out how to get into it.
yeah,
Well,
there's a
some
new
of that
place
parking,
that's like,
yeah, some of that parking I tried to park in and was
Do you
told
need help
no, I couldn't
figuring this out,
get
or-
there, so,
it worked the first time or two we went. And then
Yeah.
I think after that, it's a little kibosh on that. So, yeah, it's tricky, and then we'll have to, probably for next month, have to find a bigger room.
we're gonna,
And,
I'm trying to find out if there's a bigger room here that we can use, but I haven't had a response yet to that.
you know, they're gonna charge us
Comments
more.
on this.
Uh-huh.
I've arranged, I used to be a teacher here for
This Clive
17
Spring,
17 years.
Yeah.
so.
right,
And I've had the same problem in arranging a room for groups like this.
F11, do you want a full screen?
And
I might have to do FN F11.
unfortunately, ACC has all their rooms set for about 30 people. A little up, a little down, but that's basically it, that's all you get. Now, at the business center, just across the parking lot here, they have a room that will take 50 or more people.
okay.
And so that's a key, is that if you can get that.
Get to use.
I've arranged meetings for like. the
Does FN page down?
There it goes.
Okay.
Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers. For a larger group than this. And the business center does have bigger rooms. Most of the classrooms on the campuses are geared for 30 people, because that's the size of the classes. So that's just the way it is.
I've been told that there is, I think this may be a new part, an auditorium for 175. I don't think we need that, and I don't know how much that would cost, but sounds like there's nothing in between those two extremes. Yeah.
But the business center.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that.
So I think
Yeah, it's like, it's the administrative head of ACC.
okay, I know, yeah, okay.
And so, they have bigger rooms. But, I don't know what their availability is
Right.
tonight. I was doing the daytime events, so it wasn't an issue.
Right, yeah.
What did you teach here?
Astronomy
Really?
and engineering.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I'm working on it, and obviously we'll figure something out, but, UT is a fallback if we can't work out something here. We do still have reservations, for the room where we've been for years at UT. I haven't canceled them entirely. I've just been saying each time we're not coming, so they know, but we'll see what we can work out and let everybody know, obviously.
Okay.
Okay, you ready, Dawn?
Yeah, sure, why not? So this is fun. I am tremendously open to any feedback any of you have, because this is the first time I am ever giving this presentation. And I'm still learning and absorbing so much of what I experienced on this expedition. It was a total from start to finish, 12 days, 8 flights, a lot of traveling, never really stopping, always writing notes, taking pictures. And so a lot of us are still sort of processing everything that we took notes on and sharing notes, because it just comes at you the speed of light. I'm excited. So Astronomy in Chile Educator Ambassador Program. Is it going on?
A minute ago.
You might need to click on that part of the window, like move your mouse over there, and then click, and then page down.
There you go.
Do we need the lights turned down? Would that be helpful?
Oh, probably.
Yeah, our dark sky guy will take care of it.
There you go. So this program began back in 2015, and is predominantly a partnership between the Associated Universities Incorporated and the National Science Foundation, but also with all of these other wonderful entities. And I will try to use as few acronyms as possible, but we'll at least get some basics out of the way. ALMA, for those of you that aren't familiar, it's the Atacama Large Millimeter Array. AURA is the Association for Universities for Research in Astronomy. AUI is the Associated Universities Incorporated.
Dawn?
AURA is the National Optical Infrared Astronomy Research Laboratory. This is why they do acronyms.
Dawn,
Dawn,
this is Tim.
The whole premise of this program is to educate formal and informal astronomy enthusiasts and teachers to learn about what's going on in Chile and why it's become such this hotspot for astronomy research, and to learn what the region is doing to not only support their scientists, but support the economy through astronomy and take that information back. So we are actually required as ambassadors to not only go and learn all of this and meet all of these people and see all these great telescopes and observatories, but then go back and talk to folks like you and do outreach and get the word around. And that's predominantly, the focus of it, communicating the science, the math, the culture. I'm gonna jump to the next slide.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
The audience is saying that the screen is out of focus for the Zoomers.
It's just probably the camera, maybe.
I'm not sure that we can do anything about it.
Because it's black, it's dark in here, and so we can't see her, but the slideshow should be fine.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't care if they can't see me.
Yeah.
No, it isn't. The
Yeah, so
slideshow
go to
is
the
not.
lights back on.
Yeah, probably this side.
Let's turn on one of the lights.
Yeah, turn on this side over here.
Is that better?
Yes. That'll work.
Okay. So to give you an idea, just based in the United States, this is sort of the distribution of where all of the past and also the next group of cohorts come from. So it's a pretty large spread. There's 71 ambassadors in total that have gone through the program and that are going to be going through later on in this year, including Lucia, who we think is going to be coming on the call shortly, if not on already. 65 of those are in the United States and the US territories, with only another 6 being international. Right now, I believe California holds the record for the most ambassadors from any state. It's a total of 8. Austin, we've sent 4, we'll be sending our 4th one, Lucia. Minneapolis is right behind us. Minneapolis, Minnesota, they have 3 ambassadors that have gone through this program. So while it's pretty well distributed, we do have some, hot pockets of folks where they're coming from. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So we have a total of 3 ambassadors that have come from Chile, 1 from Trinidad and Tobago, and then 1 from Germany and Antarctica are going on this next trip. And it's just been within the past few years that they've really started expanding more of the knowledge and information to draw in people from outside of pretty much the Americas. Go ahead.
Okay, I got a question.
Yes.
Who is from Antarctica?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering too.
I'd have to look up and see who that is specifically. He's not just like travels there, he's been living there doing research. So at least that's what it said on his profile. I did not ask him directly.
Only scientists live there.
What's that?
Only scientists are from
exactly.
Antarctica.
What was really fun in putting together this presentation is I wanted to kind of do this quick deep dive and sort of look at what the distribution is. Overall, I'm kind of impressed. We've had, out of the entire 7 cohorts, including the one that's coming up, 37 men and 34 women. So almost a good 50-50 split. I've kind of color coded it here and give you an idea of sort of what the breakdown is. And up until my cohort, it's been almost a good half and half male female. I think COVID really sort of played into our numbers dwindling. We start off with 3 females, and as the dates changed, which they changed over, I think 6 different times, we got bumped further and further as things developed with COVID. Pretty much the day I arrived in Santiago, I was the only female in this expedition with 9 men. I should say 8 men. And then we added 1 more person So she joined our group sort of to both help out in a capacity that our leader had his co-lead normally assist, who's actually from Chile. Catalina is from Chile and she's a scientist there and had just come off of another variation of this program, but looking at more natural sciences in Patagonia. So she did that for 2 weeks and then came and joined our expedition for 2 weeks.
Oh, that sounds fun.
But you can see kind of a good split. So we've got a good mix of, formal educators, informal educators, planetarium professionals, folks that work in both NASA and non-NASA science and space facilities, and then a fairly good distribution of astrophotographers and journalists. Go ahead, next slide.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Don, you might tell them who else from Austin has,
Okay.
oh, you'll get
Okay.
sorry. I should have known.
That's okay. This is my crew. So to give you kind of a breakdown of who my people were, Dave is a retired naval officer and he's an informal educator, works with the Minneapolis Astronomical Society, and actually he was on the crew that hosted Alcon, I think it was in 2019 in Minneapolis. Mark is sort of one of our formal educators, but not astronomy or science based, or I should say not astronomy based. He's a sociology professor, solar system ambassador. We have a lot of those. He's from Orlando, Florida, just along with our buddy Michael, Jason's from Florida. He's a planetarium director. This is Kata. This is my friend, my only female. She and I pretty much kind of became the moms of the group, mainly just counting heads everywhere we went. We were never in the same place more than 2 nights. And we were constantly driving and shuttling around and getting on and off of planes. So it was a lot of, okay, we've got everyone, or no, we're missing someone. Fortunately, that never happened. We did miss our luggage though, on one trip. But that was bound to happen. But yeah, so we have a whole slew. Dr. Alan Strauss, he's actually the director of the University of Arizona's Mount Lemmon Science Center. And as far as I'm concerned, he brought the best swag. And I do apologize, I should have brought it and I forgot to. One of the things they ask us to do is, because we're meeting so many people and getting introduced to folks and hosted at different areas, they want us to bring something that's sort of representative of where we came from. And I do have some of that swag later for folks. But something that, speaks to either the city, the community, the state. Alan surprised us all on our second night with a piece of glass, a piece of reject glass from the telescope facility underneath the University of Arizona's football field, where they build all the big mirrors.
Wow.
It doesn't seem like much, but when you realize what it is, there was a lot of squealing with the school kids. Yeah, this was our motley crew for 12 days. Okay, next slide. But before we had to get there. And because of the way this is normally set up, it's typically, I think with Lucia is a good example. So Lucia applied at the end of last year, beginning of last year, was notified middle of last year, and will be traveling middle of this year. I think they're trying to kind of narrow that. Usually it's about a 6-month period between notification that you've been selected and your trip. And like I said, I applied January of 2020, was notified April of 2020, and COVID. And so 2.5 years and 19 Zoom calls later, we all wound up in Santiago. We got to realize how tall we all were, because I don't know if you've noticed from being on Zoom calls, but you only know everybody from the collarbone up. I was one of the more taller people in our group that I learned. All right, go to the next slide. So part of these calls is a lot of preparatory information. I think in many ways, we kind of lucked out with COVID, because we all had a pretty good sense of who we were and who each other was by the time we got there, because of all these calls. And we had a lot of calls. So each of those calls was prep about information was where.
I'm out
No,
of sync.
You're out
Yeah,
of sync.
you went.
There you go.
There you
Was prep about what to bring. We had other ambassadors who gave presentations on doing astrophotography or bringing the right equipment. So this is what I packed with me. I did bring a telescope. I was the only one to bring a telescope because I had a backpack telescope. It was awesome. I got some good pictures. Would I do it again? I don't know. It does fit into an overhead bin on an airplane. And I wasn't quite sure, but I found the way to get around that is you just tell the person at the gate, lithium ion battery has to go with me. And it was awesome because I got to load it and unload it, because the moment you tell somebody it's a telescope, they kind of freak out. But it does weigh 25 pounds. So that was on and off of every bus and every car and every TSA checkpoint. I did bring a camera that I'm still learning to use, but got some really good experience with it. I did take some meter readings at a couple of our sites. This was our ice-saving trace right here. If you don't have one of these, it's awesome. It's also really good if you have an ice storm and your power goes out. For the most part, all of the outlets in Chile are a two-prong South American outlet. Until we got to CTIO, and because it's predominantly run by the US and they have American programs, suddenly we were presented with American outlets and none of us had prepared for that. But I had a battery pack. Okay, the next slide, Terry.
Next slide.
No, he's there. No, you got it. You're good.
Yeah.
So the average altitude of Chile is 6,000 feet. And I just thought it would be kind of fun to kind of look and see what our trip was like. I didn't take into consideration like altitude of planes. That's sort of a given. But I did surmise we drove about 550 miles. I flew about 12,000 plus, walked 38 miles, tried 3 really interesting types of ice cream because it was summer there and it was hot. We were supposed to go in July. I was very excited because I like the cold. It was going to be winter. It was going to be on average in the 30s and 40s. And 4 days before we were all set to leave, Mother Nature dumped 6 feet of snow on top of the majority of the peaks we were going to be going to. And they had to evacuate the researchers by helicopter. So we got pushed to December. So I tried some interesting flor de desierto, which is like a purpley flower that's sort of this color right here, very lavendery type ice cream. First night we're there, actually I should say first day we're in Santiago. We go to Italian for lunch and German for dinner. So it took about a day for us to actually start getting Chilean food, but it was an interesting mix. We like to joke that our lead, Tim, convinced us when we were in San Pedro to go and get the most amazing croissant and Parisian food ever. It's because it's the only Parisian food in San Pedro de Atacama in Chile, but it was still wonderful.
Any guinea pigs?
No guinea pigs. At least they didn't tell us if we were. Saw a whole lot of really great animals, but the ones that really stood out that are specifically native to South America, I did see my first Andean condor, which was a really cool experience. Some Chilean flamingos, this is in a later slide, and vacuna, which are sort of the South American equivalent of like a llama alpaca mix. But let's sort of get into the trip and astronomy in general. So why Chile? I'm sure most of the folks in here know why Chile. They have 300 plus nights. I'd love to have 300 plus nights. Like I said, they have an average elevation of over 6,000 feet. It is the driest desert in the world. And when I say that, there's actually a section in the Atacama Desert, a portion of it, that has not seen rain in 18,000 years. The Atacama as a whole gets on average 1/8 of an inch of rain a year. It is very dry, very dry. Lip balm was our friend. It's also very high in elevation, so high UV. Sunscreen was a regular. In fact, when we went to Alma, you couldn't walk 20 feet in their offices without seeing a hand sanitizer station and sunscreen right next to it.
I think when we were at Sierra Tololo, which is around 8,000 feet on average, the UV index was about 6 to 8. And at Alma, which is just under 10,000, it was upwards of 11 and 13. So you always wore hats. We always were covered up. And did I mention it was summer? Yes. The combination of the ice fields in Patagonia, Pacific coast, the Andes, it's just this wonderful conglomeration of perfect weather. Chile is home to 70% of the world's telescopes. And we visited 45 of them on this expedition, which was pretty amazing in 9 days. Okay, next slide. The whole trip was sort of a mix of cultural experience, astronomy. The first day we landed, a handful of us went to what's called Sky Costanera. It's actually the tallest skyscraper in South America. And if you've been to San Francisco in the past 15 years or so, its partner building, the San Francisco Transbay structure, it's almost identical, but it's like 30 feet taller. But this one is, I think it's 330 meters. And we got to go all the way up to the top, and you can walk around and see all of Santiago. And Santiago is huge. It's almost like being in the center of Los Angeles. It's just a ginormous metropolitan area. It's also, if you did not know, on the Ring of Fire. So first night, we got an earthquake.
Oh,
I'm from California. I'm used to earthquakes. I'm not used to earthquakes on the 11th floor of a hotel. That was very interesting. But it was minor. There was no major damage. And actually, I believe it was probably the only strong earthquake we had the entire time we were there. But a lovely welcome to Chile nonetheless. Next slide.
John, could you lower your screen just a little bit?
Oh, yeah.
Or-
Table.
Maybe move this way.
Do the telescopes have to deal with earthquakes too, or are they farther enough removed?
They're more removed, at least the ones that we went to are more removed. I think the majority of the earthquakes they have emanate more from at the coast and out into the Pacific. And they do have certain circumstances where they take into consideration, not so much earthquakes, but definitely weather. So our first big day was getting kind of a debrief from folks with AUI about pretty much what to expect over the next week and a half of our trip. This was our first Chilean meal. It was quite delicious. And so these are sort of this is what I brought, a set of stickers and buttons representative of the Mexican free-tailed bat, which is the small mammal of Austin, and the nine-banded armadillo, which is the small mammal of Texas, which are also impacted by light pollution, which sort of feeds into my work. We also had this wonderful presentation by Provoca, which is a group that focuses on getting young women exposed to STEM at an early age and providing them with resources and counseling and support to continue that education into a longstanding career, because much like the rest of the world, Chile's research scientists are still predominantly male, but they're improving those numbers significantly with help from groups like Provoca.
One more.
Yeah, no,
I want to point out that those designs up there, Dawn did those. She made them herself. I thought those were really cool. Yeah. Very nice.
Thanks. Yeah. Oh, and if you're wondering, this is Corduroy.
Yeah.
Corduroy's in a lot of the pictures. Corduroy also has his own Instagram. I started doing astronomy trips in 2014, going to Texas Star Party. And at the time I had a 2.5-year-old. And so to feel connected to him while I was away, he sent me with a stuffed animal. And Corduroy has been to pretty much every Star Party, every Alcon, 4 countries so far. And
Did he go to Goddard?
What's that?
Did he go to Goddard? I don't remember Corduroy.
No, I think.
Was he there?
I think Corduroy went to Goddard. I just didn't take many pictures of him.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
think I was
That's why I don't
that
remember
into
him.
it yet.
Oh,
and we were
okay.
kind of, that was a lot.
Yeah, it was a
It's
busy
like,
week.
we were watching after like young high school girls. There was a
Yeah.
lot to take on. But yeah, so he pretty much became the mascot of our trip. Everybody hung out with corduroy at some point in time. You feeling homesick? Here's corduroy. Have a migraine? Here's corduroy. It was awesome. So a lot of the trips, other than just going to these large research facilities and observatories, was going out into community locations that were doing work in astronomy. And Alfea is one of those great places. They do astronomy education. They're very focused on an area that I am very passionate about, which is making astronomy accessible for everyone. So they offer a lot of adaptive tools and resources. They have this beautiful dome that they have presentations in. They have a set of telescopes that their staff is very well versed in. And as a bonus, it's a winery. Yes. This trip was a lovely combination of all things astronomy and Chilean wine. But to give you an idea of just how immersed these communities are, these are murals in the Cuna that the residents have either done themselves or have had drawn. There's actually one that I think they're just wrapping up that's of the upcoming, or it was of the eclipse that they had in 2019. And these are ones that I just was able to find. Most of the time we were driving in cars, but down every little road, and you'll see some later, they're just these beautiful murals, and most of them have some astronomy theme to them. They're very passionate about astronomy. They are very proud of not only their research that's being done, but they speak a lot and they talk a lot to the astronomy myths of the indigenous people there as well. But because of Chile's prominence in the astronomical community and in research and observatories, that is a huge economic bonus and benefit for the whole country. I don't have it here, but at one point in time, I sort of had planned a whole run of Chile. And you can't really throw a dart down the whole length of Chile without hitting a town that has an observatory in it. It's pretty amazing.
Can I jump on you?
What's that? No, you're okay. So this was our first observatory we went to, Gemini, and it's the southern equivalent of the Northern Gemini telescope, which is the same size and arrangement on Mauna Kea in Hawaii. It's atop Sierra Pachon, and it's quite remarkable in the amount of sky coverage it can provide. It has almost complete coverage of the northern and southern hemisphere. It cannot extend beyond plus 98 degrees at the pole and minus 98 degrees at the pole. I'm sorry, 89 degrees. 98.
Yeah, I was trying to figure that out.
Well, with the poles shifting, we've
Yeah. There you go.
89. So it literally has, a blind side of 1 degree in each direction. It's the largest and most advanced optical and infrared telescope that's available to astronomers. And it's leading the astronomical research in adaptive optics, in assisted infrared imaging. And on average, the combination of these two scopes provides about 400 individual science projects annually, 2/3 of which are led and managed by US-based astronomers. So it's operated by the US, Canada, Brazil, Argentina, and Chile. And it's used for direct imaging and analyzing of exoplanets, star formation, star evolution, supermassive black holes, the structural dynamic of galaxies, and also researching sort of the large scale structure of the universe. So there's a lot in a little package. I get to go up really close here. This really doesn't give you the scope of how big this facility is. This is the cooling facility underneath it to just keep that big monster cold. And then this is how it's run. Just a series of, I think there's one other similar sort of station, but all of these observatories you kind of want to walk in and have it be like this grand, Stargate Command. And it's just usually two guys just running a few screens, running the world's astronomy research out of Chile. And that's it. This one is fun. This one I could not get enough pictures of I have 10 or 20 pictures just of the underside of these wires. So this is SOAR, and this is So Southern Astrophysical Research Telescope. It's operated by a consortium of Brazil, Chile, Michigan State University, the CTIO facilities themselves, and the University of Northern Carolina at Chapel Hill. When it first came online, it made the first observation and provided the first set of accurate measurements for what we now still know as the glowing remains of the most distant explosion ever seen in the universe. It has 2 UV optical imagers that are 16 million pixels. Let's go back to there.
It's okay.
It also has a UV spectrograph, and then 2 near-infrared imagers and an infrared spectrograph and a whole adaptive optics module. And most of that just lives right here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Should we be thinking of this like the God Observatory, where these are all live inside each other? Or are we talking different cities, different mountains, all over the
So these specifically for Sierra Tololo, they're on 3 different peaks of Sierra Tololo and Sierra Pachon. But they're, I mean, you can stand at one and see the others. So they're all within the same general area.
Are there like security check-in gates to get there?
Yes, so we actually, it took us about a 45-minute drive from the main road to get up to these facilities. And there is a fully gated, manned, like security dog even. I mean, it's maybe like 1 or 2 guys. So it's pretty low key. I mean, nobody's really gonna break into a facility like this. And even if they do, they have to hike up a fairly lengthy gravel road with occasionally wild horses and mules walking across the road. We ran into a few of those. Yeah. This one was my favorite. So we did not get to go inside the actual observatory as much as we begged and pleaded and bribed and tried to distract, like, oh, look over there, celebration. This is atop El Peñon, which is a peak of Sierra Pachon. It was originally the Large Synoptic Survey Telescope and was renamed for Vera Rubin. And to the best of my knowledge, I think it's only the 2nd telescope observatory that's been named for a woman in the entire world. We need to change that.
What's the elevation there?
Elevation there is about 72, 73. And it's actually very specifically designed in this shape to take into consideration the air currents so that it does not cause any disruption to the mirrors or the optics when they are imaging, when they are using the telescope. All of these observatories have very specific designs with regards to wind, whether it's the shape of the building or it's louvered, openable side windows, as you'll see in a minute with the Blanco. So as construction began in 2007, they're expecting for the computer system to come online this year in 2023 and first light in 2024. It will carry out synoptic astronomical surveys using a 3.2 gigapixel CCD imaging camera, which is so far the largest digital camera ever created. And it has a field of view of 3.5 degrees. So it's going to be looking at a lot of really cool stuff. So Lucia may not be able to see much of it come online, but hopefully by next year, the next cohort, we'll get to come back and report on things with the Vera Rubin. I did put one picture in there. That was the first rock that was moved to build the observatory. There are other pictures that are much more dramatic. Like when I stepped out of the car, I was like, it was pretty impressive. And we had to wear hard hats going inside because it's still under construction. And this is much more kind of like SGC sort of thing. This is actually just one of 2 full sections. So when you walk in, it's like very top of the line, new technology, flat screens, like kind of like what you imagine like NORAD looks like, all glass windows, and a lot of operations going on, even though things haven't been brought up online.
Well, I heard you whistling. I come like a doggy. I said I come like a doggy.
Was there. So I brought with me my Unistellar EV1 scope. So it's first generation Unistellar
Astronomy meeting going on.
I did learn that while it was tremendously beneficial to carry it with me on every single flight and in every single vehicle, by the time I got to here, it was really out of collimation. Like really, like somebody had rolled it down a hill and kicked it a few times. These were the best images I got after maybe an hour and a half of trying to collimate that monster, and I still have to do some work. But it was really neat. The southern skies were everything I expected them to be, except for Orion upside down. That's just weird. Yeah. It's just not right. It doesn't feel weird. It doesn't feel right. Tried to catch a few things that I wouldn't normally. I did manage to catch a very small comet. Kind of the go-to, especially when I'm observing for the first time in a night with the scope, is to go to the Orion Nebula, because that will really tell me how in or out of focus I am. I was very excited to get this great image of the Horsehead Nebula, and then I got this like low orbit satellite across it. So that was my first time imaging where I got an artifact. So I feel like I've arrived as an amateur astrophotographer.
Welcome aboard.
Yeah, thank you. I did try to capture. Now, mind you, this scope is only about a 4-inch diameter. So while I did try to capture the small Magellan cloud, it's sort of hard to tell because it's the entire view is the small Magellan cloud. But you can see them very clearly, naked eye, large and small up there. Mind blowing. All right. This. This is a fun one of the observatories that's also up in the same areas where we were. There's sort of like this big sort of plateau where they've got all the large observatories, mainly with walking paths. So this was originally participated in research. It came online in 1950, and it didn't move to Chile from the University of Michigan until I think it was 1967. In fact, so this is Juan Sigel. He was sort of our guide while we're at CTIO. He's one of the science researchers and educators there. He brought us down underneath the observatory and brought out the glass imaging plates. They're still in like the old Kodak boxes in like a fridge down there. We couldn't take them home though. But we did get to open. In fact, Mark got to run the controls. This actually is the original sort of mechanism for it. It still does control the majority of the movement of the observatory, but they can also do it downstairs with their computers, but it's still kind of cool. So you got to flip the switch and push the button, and the whole thing moved into place. And you can actually, what's nice about this one is you can walk around the full outside of the observatory there. And this was used originally for an orbital debris survey. I think now it's still being used, but not as regularly as some of the more newer and up-to-date telescopes. This is my favorite, and unfortunately, because I've saved this to Terry's computer as a PDF. I have 2 videos that, if you want to watch them afterwards, I'll show you. One is actually of both the Curtis and of the Blanco opening up at night and moving. And then I have a 13-minute video because we were given the opportunity, and only 3 of us took him up on it. We were given the opportunity by the manager of the observatory to go up at night and watch him completely open up and align the telescope, which was the coolest thing ever because this thing is gigantic. I mean, that's us. This is the mirror.
Wow.
It's gigantic. So it's a 4-meter optical scope. It was actually named for a Puerto Rican astronomer Victor Manuel Blanco, completed in 1976. And he was actually the director of CTIO from 67 when it went online to 81. And so afterwards, they actually named it in his honor. Okay. Okay. When it was completed, it was the largest optical reflecting telescope in the southern hemisphere. Good. We're good. Yeah, so this is, again, that's all of the computers that just control this monster thing, but they still have all the original. And you can see Kurdo is trying to press all the buttons. But yeah, so it has the main sort of flooring section, the telescope sits on, and then it has like an outer ring. So both sort of move to get the scope, and I can't see too much here, but you've got all of these sort of louvered windows around here. So as it opens, they open up, and those sort of windows and venting helps control the airflow, helps keep the mirror clear. Yeah, I have like 13 minutes of that whole opening process. And it's just, and not to mention you're sort of up, like this photo I took standing up on that outer ring catwalk. So you could see the view. It's just, and all my bravest want to go.
Well, you can share all this stuff on Discord, right?
I can share all this on Discord.
Oh, that's a good idea.
That is a really good idea. You can find it on Discord.
Yeah.
So this is my second night of imaging. A little bit better. We also had a really great opportunity. So in the past, I've worked with Scott Roberts, who's the owner and founder of Explore Scientific, and he partners with the Astronomical League, and they put on global star parties. They're weekly. It's something he started right at the beginning of COVID to kind of keep us all interested in the game because we couldn't go out and observe. I think they're well over like 125 they've done so far. So we got to do a little brief presentation from the operating room of Victor Blanco. So I kind of just let these run for a while. So I think the longest one, let me see. Yeah, the triangulum, that ran for 59 minutes. Still could be more in focus, but it was really fun because I wanted to see what the telescope could do with the Pleiades. And then one suggested, well, you should go for Theta Carina cluster because that's sort of the southern hemisphere equivalent of the Pleiades. Yeah.
Is it doing like 30-second subs or 1-minute subs?
I think it's 30-second. And that was 15 minutes. And then the Pleiades was 10. Yeah. Still can't get over the southern skies. It was everything I hoped it would be. All right, different. Okay, so this is sort of the town of in the Valle de Aquila, and this is just some of the murals that they have there. It was this beautiful little village, practically. It's situated right there in the valley, right outside Vicuna, on our way sort of between where we came down from CTIO, heading back out to La Serena, which is right on the coast. So I got to hang out in the Pacific and not have to go to California to do that. And it's almost perpetually spring there. There's bougainvillea blooming everywhere. We went to the most amazing bakery. But yeah, everywhere you walk, there's just these beautiful murals that they've had painted that have starshapes. Galaxies. They're very proud of their heritage and they're very proud of the astronomy there. I wish we could have that level of appreciation here. Maybe we just need more murals. Then we get to Alma. So this was a completely different arrangement in the sense that this is now jumping to radio telescope. They don't give a crap about night skies. It's dark, but they don't care. It's a radio telescope in astronomy. These were 3 different variations of telescopes that they had actually down on the ground floor. They have a total of 66 So they don't always have 66 running, but they have a total of 66 that they can move around, I think upwards of distance as far as, I think 13 kilometers. So they can open up, I think they have about 40 to 45, I'm correct, to go back through my notes, that they run sort of on a regular basis. And they do have to cycle them out, like all of these. A lot of the large telescopes at CTIO in their facilities, they will actually have a mirror coating facility there because it's just easier than having to schlep it somewhere. These were the red trucks. Everyone drives these red 4x4 pickup trucks. It's also what I blame for not being able to go up to the high site, because unfortunately you have to do a medical test before you go from 10,000 feet to 16,500. And my blood pressure was too high, probably because I was stuck driving stick shift pickup truck in a foreign country on roads where the signs on the side of the road actually say, Calle Mala. The roads are bad up ahead. Be careful. We also have mules, donkeys, about 4 of them, that just go wherever they want. So we had to avoid little droppings in this hangar they have here for doing work. This is what they take to carry those telescopes. And to give you an idea,
Why don't you do it in the
my
ear?
hand would be about the size of one of those treads. So it literally can come in, it's sort of, U-shaped, and will come in, and it latches, and it picks them up,
Put my headphones on.
and it works its way up to the high side at 4 miles an hour. But it's very precise.
That's about the speed. Human knows in the mountains as well.
That's true.
Not carrying a telescope that
Oh,
size.
yeah. Never the news stellar on your back.
And to give you an idea of, so this is one of the components. There are 8 in each telescope. I think he said that was about $1.5 million. You have to go in the clean room and see them up close. Let's take them home, obviously. But it was fun. We were there actually at the time that they were communicating with other folks. So they have a much bigger sort of array here. But then again, they have to be responsible for 66 potential telescopes. It's also not too far.
That's because it sounds like it's a sensitive dog. So I don't want to influence anything. I want to see what Flora's doing right or what she's wrong.
Thankfully not erupting. There were other ones erupting while we were there. Nowhere near us, thankfully. But huge facility. This thing just, it can't even express to you the size of this. Yeah, gigantic. And shipped over from Germany. So shipped over and then had to be assembled here.
Yeah, in pieces.
In pieces, yes.
Todd, did they say why they have the arrangement? I was looking online. It's not like the VLA where it's like a very clear structure. It looks irregular. Did they comment on that? Why?
So they have different configurations for what, depending on what part of the sky they're looking at, what part of research they're doing. Again, 1,800 pictures. It took a lot just to cull through these. But I actually have images that I can share with you of the configurations that they showed us, and they gave sort of an explanation of what configurations they would use when they're doing, looking at what part of the sky. Yes?
Did you happen to get to see the correlation center where they integrate they've got a supercomputer there, integrates all those telescopes.
Oh.
We got to see it. We didn't get to go near it, but we got to see it.
I'm not surprised.
Actually, that and when they have these sort of assembled or in process of being assembled before they're actually put into the telescopes, they have an entire room with climate-controlled cubbies. So they're all temperature and humidity controlled. While they don't care, and I say that very tongue-in-cheek about night skies, they do care about humidity. They have a laundry facility that does not vent to the outside from their dryers. It actually sucks the water out and put it in a tray because they want to try to keep any amount of humidity from entering the sky. So it's very highly controlled environment. But yeah, I'm more than happy to share any other pictures or information, but I figured we did have to be out of here by 9, so I wanted to kind of keep it succinct. I did not take these pictures because, like I said, oh, actually, that's pretty quickly. Before we went on site, so that is what size the telescopes are, and that's the shape. So they have 2. That's one of them is carrying it. So my friends who did go up to the high side should some of these photos. Pretty much they pulled out of the parking lot and were immediately instructed to put their oxygen on. So it's they're very specific about, I mean, obviously as a research facility, as a funded facility, they're very specific about medical situations. So they have a whole medical area and folks on site. The only reason why I think they're particularly sticklers about it is because you go from 10,000 to 16.5 in 45 minutes. So it's very, very quick. It's a long-term investment. So this was sort of another one of our excursions after we left Alma in San Pedro, and there we go. It was really amazing going to see the observatories. Going to Reserva Elementar was probably the best night, even of observing. So this is an environmental reserve where they're doing not only work with sort of natural building structures, bringing back native and indigenous plant species, working with the indigenous community, doing education, doing outreach, but they also have a tremendous amount invested in educating on the indigenous astronomy myths, and learned some really interesting ones. Was it? I think it was. They see Orion. One of the constellations I have written down somewhere. They see as sort of like a big blanket. And I know we don't have any blankets in our typical constellation diagrams. I almost brought home a llama. This is for Betty. For $20,000 and probably another million to get on the plane. It could have been mine. You had a question, Michelle?
I was going to ask if that was a llama or an alpaca.
It is a llama. They have a whole bunch of llamas there. That was my buddy though. These are really amazing. So the facility has a lot of these. These are these stone reflecting pools, and they would actually use these traditionally to observe the stars by looking at the reflection. So pretty much we got to tour this amazing site. I could have easily run off and hidden parts of the forest there and just stayed for the rest of my life. It was beautiful and serene. But then later on, we had a wonderful spread, more Chilean wine. And we had 2 gentlemen come in and for about 2 hours talk to us about indigenous astronomy, play their instruments, and sang for us. That's cool. And I recorded the whole thing. But yeah, it was incredible. Yes?
What is the benefit of looking at the stars that are reflecting through as opposed to looking at them?
So
like you would lose it all.
I think it had a lot more to do with the fact, well, this was also a technique that was used pre-observational equipment. I think there's also something about stories behind that and the sort of the tie-in of reflection and whatnot. But I can do more research. I'm much more curious about that. We got kind of a primer, and it was sort of, again, a lot of information.
I wonder if it might be a calendar for, because.
Well, they were placed in very strategic locations,
Yeah.
so that may be a tie-in to it.
Yeah.
I'll get back to you.
I wonder if it had a very slight parabolic shape because of the way the water, this was.
It very much could have.
Yeah, maybe there was a bit of distortion that magnified it.
Or maybe you just have to drink more Chilean wine.
Yeah. There you go.
And then there were the flamingos, which when we first talked about the different kinds of excursions we could do, they brought up flamingos. And one of our folks that was on our call in our cohort went, "That's my favorite bird. We have to go see the flamingos." I thought, okay, this is kind of interesting. It was incredible. So we drove out to this tremendously huge salt flat that is actually just sort of right on the other side of the border of the Bolivian salt flats, the Sala Lunar, cannot pronounce it right. And we spent like 2 hours just walking on these wonderful trails and looking at flamingos, which was just really a cool excursion. What's that?
They're not pink?
So they actually are on their underside. I have a picture, I think it was in the beginning, but it was too small. I can show you. I actually got a really good shot of like the underside of the wings are much more pink, but they're not consuming the same kind of, I guess, shrimp that they would have in other parts of the world. But it was just amazing because these are also, again, Chilean flamingos, so they're only found in South America. And then in the evening, we happened to be in San Pedro, which right down the road from where we were staying is a meteorite museum. And this guy has just pretty much been a meteorite collector his whole life. He set up these wonderful geodesic domes. I think we paid like $4 and had this little audio tour and got to see all his wonderful display. And he has ones that you can touch, and Corridor is manhandling them left and right. And then we got to meet him and talk to him, and he told us about, his background and his interest, and it was just amazing. And Jamie has a meteorite actually from the region. Okay. So as we were on our way out, we did not get to spend much time, but this is the Valley of the Moon. This is actually one of the areas where they'll do a lot of trainings for like future missions because it's sort of Martian-like looking. This is our motley crew. This was like the default, like, okay, we got 2 minutes. Everybody get out of the car, take a picture, get back in the car. We had to go to the airport. These were my very patient, wonderful men of truck 2 who put up with my stalling on a regular basis. But we're very grateful I was an attentive driver and avoided potholes as much as I could. Yes.
How did you get elected driver?
So they asked everybody, who can drive stick shift? And I went, me, I can drive it, sure. And a few of us did. And then they went, who feels comfortable driving a stick shift 4x4 pickup truck in Chilean desert? And I went, And then I happened to be sitting in front of our leader on a flight, and he leans in and goes, "You want to drive one of the trucks? Can you drive one of the trucks? Do you want to drive one of the trucks?" And I'm thinking, okay, everybody else must have already said they couldn't. And so I did.
Sounds like fun to me.
It was interesting. It was interesting. I was very grateful because the truck I got, when you open it up or when you unlock it, the side windows fold out. That was the only way I knew how to find my truck because I didn't have a picture of it, but I came out one morning from Alma to head to breakfast, and there's like 50 of them. And they're all the same red, identical pickup truck. So thankfully, that was how I knew. So after we wound up on another flight, flying back to Santiago, we got to visit the European Southern Observatory offices. And again, so this is in a fairly populated center of Chile. And all down the sidewalks in front of this facility are these giant posters of all the things that they have found, their observing sites. It's just not something you see that we do here. But they're very proud of the work they're doing. And you might be going, Don, why do you have a picture of like a conference room? This is weird. This was the conference room they gave the press conference from when they showed the first visual image we had of the black hole. It was down there. I got to be there. And again, one of their operating areas, the telescopes, it's very low key. But yeah, just really great. I mean, in each of these locations, we were meeting, the folks that were running the observatories, the folks that were, operating the systems, the director of ESO. We got to meet the director of ALMA. So much information, so much interest, so much passion, and at the same time, doing so much work publicly. So every single one of these facilities, our tour guides at ALMA, they both do the work in ALMA, and then they go out and in their, volunteer time, much like folks here, they go out and do outreach and education and bring astronomy and science to the rural communities there, to the folks that don't have that exposure. It's not something like here where we've been a club for over 50 years and we're still like, what, 0.5% of the Austin population. You can't really throw a rock and not see some evidence of interest in astronomy. Even on the intersections of the roads in Santiago, there were these beautiful like tile mosaics in the ground depicting constellations or depicting, some kind of imagery that was astronomy related. How are we doing on time? Oh, we're doing good. Awesome. So, getting back to your original inquiry, 3 of us have gone. Lucia's next. Amy Jackson was the first to go in 2017, member of AAS. She runs Starry Sky Austin. The work that she's done since she came back is obviously, bringing her overall knowledge to what she does in astronomy education. I think if you were to ask any of us, we would go back in a heartbeat. And there's some ambassadors that actually have gone back and continue to go back to Chile to keep doing work and keep sort of bridging that divide. Rob Penigo went 2 years later, so that should be 19, not 2017. He said it was one of the highlights of his sort of astronomical career. Amazing photos. He's a phenomenal astrophotographer. So he brought back a lot of information of just the southern skies and able to represent that and show everybody, what was there. And you have me. And then Lucia Brimmer, she is the co-founder of Stars and Science Austin, took over the mobile planetariums when the Texas Museum of Science and Technology closed. So with her work partner, Bobby, they provide planetarium shows all over the region to schools, to libraries, to groups. So I'm really excited to see what kind of stuff she cooks up for planetarium shows when she gets back. Yeah, that's it. Who wants to go?
Carrie, you want to unmute the laptop in case someone online needs a question?
I didn't keep track before, but you're asking a question, so you get a prize. Yes. Well, yes, but you also get a prize for asking a question. If you never went to the first few months of Astronomy on Tap, they would always hand out red glow sticks when you asked a question, and then they got tired because everybody started learning and they started asking questions. They ran out of glow sticks. What's your question?
How are the relations with the native population, with the indigenous population?
I think they're better than they probably were. They've really put, at least the folks that we've talked with, the folks that we got to meet, have really made a strong emphasis to work with the indigenous regions, to work with the rural communities, to sort of bridge that gap. Whether it's through, places like Alpha Idea where they have, it's in a very rural community and they have folks that come in from the region, from outside the region, they bring in local school kids to look at the stars and learn about astronomy. So in general, I think they've gotten very heavily involved, more so than I expected, to not only take into consideration, the in-person interaction, but also just being conscientious about the land. In every circumstance, we inquired about the extenuating circumstances behind building these. For example, they had the road from Vicuña all the way up to CTIO. Don't remember the distance, but it took a good 45 minutes to get all the way up. That had to be put in. They had to, put in a road to get there. And in every situation that I asked, the natural impact was very minimal. So they work, especially with the landowners that exist along that road. They have very good partnerships with them because they not only want to, preserve the land, but they also want to be conscientious about, especially livestock. We were stopped for a period of time while, donkeys and mules crossed the road. Yeah, overall, I'd say it's a very positive relationship from what I experienced, and they're doing more and more. They're doing not only just astronomy work, but really taking it to the point where, they're finding ways to bring money back into the communities as well.
So Don, Bill Spazzeri wants to know, do you have any problems with breathing oxygen?
Well, I didn't get to go up to the high site, but we spent most of the time, Santiago's still around 2,700 feet. I didn't have any issues, which is good. Just I couldn't go to the high site. I'll send one of these to you in the mail, Bill.
Do you have a favorite Chilean dish now? Since you mentioned that you ended up getting to try some.
I had this fish, and we still couldn't figure out how it's actually supposed to be pronounced, but it's like hake, like Hake, and it was delicious, and it was like butter. It was wonderful. I will admit I tried at every opportunity to experiment in all the different types of pisco sour, and I'm learning how to make it at home. Pisco sour is like the regional drink of Chile, and there's a Peruvian version, and so it's a like a liquor, but it's made from wine or from grapes, and it's delicious. And everybody drinks pisco. Peruvian brandy. Exactly. But yeah, all the food was amazing. And such big portions. I guess these researchers and these astronomers, it's like carb loading for a long night of, sitting at a computer. So both at CTIO and at ALMA, the facilities are wonderful. We all had our own rooms. We got to, we had 3 meals a day, which I'm not even really used to in my normal life. And even asking them to cut the portions in half, it was a tremendous amount of food, but it was all really good, really delicious. Any other questions? You already got us back, but yes, what's your question?
Well, in the same vein, I've read that in Hawaii, the astronomy community has been required to agree that each new telescope that goes in means one telescope goes out. They have to remove one before they can put a new one. Or relations.
I did not, I can't confirm 100% that isn't an issue. But I didn't get the impression that that's the kind of attitude that they have in Chile. Like I said, everyone we talked to, especially if it was just talking to somebody at a restaurant and they're asking, hey, what's your group doing? They're genuinely interested in astronomy and was very, if they knew anything about the observatories or about the research, was very prideful. Sort of like, how crazy Texans are prideful about their state. That's kind of the general vibe that I got. And I know that overall, they'll continue to put more observatories, and they are continuing. They have the Giant Magellan Telescope that's still being built. But I think the community sees it as an economic benefit, as a scientific benefit. Thankfully, it's not, I guess, as strict for Stearns.
You kind of showed that in the murals you took.
Oh God, they're stunning. They're beautiful. So yes, so there are a lot of communities. They do have communities that are designated or that are tout themselves as night sky friendly communities, and that was definitely evident. It's hard to my phone, because it's the iPhone 11 Pro kind of thing. It wants to try to lighten up photos in the dark, so it's sort of hard to get a good grasp of how dark it was. But at Alveadea and Vicuña, it was dark. You had the light from the dome because they still had folks talking in there, but it was dark. Obviously that was not the case in Santiago. We tried to do a little bit of observing, and we could see Jupiter. I think we could see one star. Don't ask me what it was. That was the whole reason for bringing an EV scope, so I didn't have to try to learn the southern skies in 9 days. But definitely in the major metropolitan cities, Santiago, tremendous amount of light pollution, but every other community we went to, community didn't really even have a whole lot of street lights. I think they had a few coming in, crossing one of the bridges, but for the most part, they embrace their dark. They've seen what the Milky Way looks like when they step off their porch, and they want to keep it.
Yeah, the murals, I noticed they are more accurate representation of the sky, maybe because they can see it.
Exactly.
Did you see the measurement of the clouds? Did you comment on what they look like?
So I've been wanting to go to the Atacama Desert since I was about 6 years old. Because I just thought it was the coolest place, especially because in regions where, they don't get rain, they harvest water from the air with these giant nets. I just thought it was the coolest thing. And then I started learning about the astronomy about it. So I've been wanting to see the southern hemisphere for my entire life. And it was mind-blowing. In fact, when we were in Vicuna, it was still really early. We weren't going to see them as dark, and we were still, we still had a little bit of general light pollution. We were also sort of at a winery, and they had little, draped lights and such. So you could see just the tiniest little fuzzy, like, okay, it's up there somewhere, kind of like looking at the comet these days. The first night up at CTIO was mind-blowing. This photo, it's really hard to see. Actually, we turn off the lights real quick and see if that helps. Can you see it? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So this was one my friend Alan took. Well, this was also, there you go.
Oh, yeah, okay.
This was also right after sunset. So it just proceeded to get darker and more pronounced. And it was really hard to do general observing because I just wanted to sit and stare at them. So here's a crazy thing. So the Victor Blanco is also used for dark energy research. But one of the things that we learned on this trip, speaking with one of the researchers who I'm hoping we can get as a guest speaker on Zoom, she uses the Victor Blanco to look for satellite galaxies. Do you know how many satellite galaxies our galaxy has, our Milky Way has?
About 40.
65.
Wow.
Yeah, they found the first 11, I think, with the Victor Blanco. If I recall correctly, the Magellanic Clouds aren't even technically satellite galaxies of our galaxy because they have a different kind of signature. Yeah, so the research they're doing is remarkable. In fact, it was also where I learned that they're doing, all this research for exoplanets, and how we have, I think it's somewhere around close to or slightly over 5,000 exoplanets that we know of. Those are the ones we've confirmed. They're still sitting on 10,000 more that they haven't fully confirmed. So yeah, we need more telescopes in Chile. But yeah, Alan took this picture. Yeah, amazing pictures. But yes, they were everything I hoped they would be and more.
So your presentation, is it going to be available to watch somewhere?
Well, I mean, it's.
We're gonna Discord it.
Just recorded it.
It'll be on YouTube.
Yeah.
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah, it was just washed out with that light. So I hope the Zoom people appreciate it.
Yeah, Zoom has their own card.
I was in San Diego on
I thought we had the light on,
and then
so they could see it.
No.
Yeah, but they also have the screen
so
share
some of the
too.
pictures from your last
Yeah,
slide.
both.
Oh my gosh,
like,
you have the same picture. Wait a second. That's so fun. These pictures from ESO.
So a friend, one of the scientists there was a friend's friend. So when I was there on work, I took a few hours off and drove to the ESO. And then he spoke to me. There was some audio visual presentation about how those big vehicles move those satellites, the dishes and things like that. Now I'm very jealous of Dawn. That she's seen the videos.
You too can go. You too can sign up. As they're developing different programs to try to get more people involved, to try to find more funding, to try to find corporate sponsors. So this program is not going away anytime soon. So
one answer to your question is that scientist, basically I asked a very similar question to him, and he said that Chile today has one of the best STEM universities and courses, and with a lot of both boys and girls getting into STEM because of the presence of all of these observatories and the presence of these scientists who are there, moving there. So I think that's a definite gain for that.
So one of the things that we are required as ambassadors is to come back, and in 6 months, so pretty much by summer, we're tasked to do 7 different types of outreach activities. So not necessarily in person or presenting. One of the things, or I should say, a couple of the things I'm going to focus on, probably posting to my website and on social media, is much more in-depth information about the trip, but also really doing deeper dives into the different types of research that's being done, things that have been discovered at each of the observatories, and also really focusing on the researchers themselves. So that's one of the things that I'll post. So I'll post the link to Discord as that starts going. Oops. And can also, we'll also link to, other activities and other outreach that the other folks in my cohort are doing, because a lot of it is virtual and online.
Can I ask a question?
All right, well, let's thank Dawn one more time.
And if you want, I've got stickers.
Yay,
And yes.
We can probably go on and on, but we really do need to be out of here shortly. We need to figure out who wants to go where. Raise your hand if you want to go back to the Fruitorium.
Is it good? Okay.
I'm fine.
Who has other suggestions? I guess we'll go to the Fruitorium this time. Okay.